What's up guys, it's Ian here, back today with another video, and today I'm here to show you how to adjust a training program based on equipment availability. Today it's going to be a different style of video. I'm going to give you a screen layover as I go and give you a brief introduction to what my training program looked like in the last 8 weeks of my training before I took a deload this last week. I'm going to briefly touch on some of the PRs that I hit and then why I'm adjusting my training program going forward. Without further ado, let's jump over to this screen over here. We can see that we have my program from October 11th to December 3rd. December 3rd was basically the end of week 8. October 11th was day 1, week 1. It's essentially a 6-week accumulation block. The 7th week is a taper in terms of the overall volume. The intensity is a bit higher on week 7, so you're still accumulating intensity, but the way you look at this program fundamentally is 6 weeks of volume and intensity accumulation, a 7th week volume taper with a bit more intensity, and then week 8 you test your new 1-rep maxes on whatever lifts that you had inserted into the program as your primary lifts. You can see that in week 1 of the program over here, I started off with a bench of 185 pounds, wasn't fully paused. We'll just put it at 185 since the program starts off pretty light. I wanted to switch over to only pause reps, so that's what I did. I had a weighted dip of 280 pounds, although it did not appear in this program. My body weight was 140 pounds and I had 140 pounds on the belt. I had achieved a chin-up of 240 pounds at 140 pound body weight. I had 100 pounds on the belt. The neutral grip chin-up and pull-up, I didn't test those recently, but they're just there as an estimate. The hip thrust, I had done 405 for some number of reps, but I had never really done a single, so I just marked it off as 405. The deadlift, I had gotten up to a set of 225 for 5 repetitions. I'd never really done a single. Judging from the feeling of the 225, I'm 100% that I could have hit a single at 255. I was trying to be pretty conservative there because I didn't want the whole training block to end up too hard. So deadlift, pretty conservative. Hip thrust, I got that number for reps. Even the chin up, I got that number for reps. The dip, I got that number for reps. The bench was actually pretty all out that day. Anyways, that should give you a bit of context about what my prior training block looked like. I would tend to hit a top single on bench on Monday, do some back down work, hypertrophy work, dumbbell bench, tricep push downs, chest flies, lateral raises, stuff of that sort. Tuesday, I'd come in and do a dedicated leg day. I would do hip thrusts as the primary exercise. Then I did belt squats, leg curls, a bunch of smaller exercises. Wednesday, I would hit a top single on weighted chin-ups, do some volume work, do my front lever practice, some other bodyweight exercise, and then just arm and shoulder isolation stuff. Sometimes I'd throw in a few chest flies or bodyweight dips on that day. The rationale was essentially to get a 3 times weekly frequency for the chest and triceps while not having such an overloading day that it would be hard to recover from. Just a small bump in the weekly volume. I'm getting most of my weekly chest and tricep volume on Mondays and Fridays in this program, but sometimes a small bump on Wednesday can bring you up to that 3 times weekly frequency. That added day, you can count it as a half day or something. It doesn't have to be a killer workout to add in some effective volume, because if you think about it, the way the muscle protein synthesis curves work between Monday and Friday, there's surely a day or so, maybe even 2 days of kind of uptake time where the muscle protein synthesis has declined and you could be training more, and you can do something that's relatively not fatiguing just to try to keep the muscle protein synthesis elevated while not adding too much fatigue to the equation. Moving on, Thursday in this plan was a rest day. Friday was another chest day, volume day for pause bench. I did some spoto pressing. Really, this accessory slot could be whatever you want. Could be a spoto press, close grip bench. It could be weighted dips, although I know my shoulders haven't always agreed with doing a heavy weighted dip right after I bench. Usually if I'm going to slot in a weighted dip, it's going to be a primary exercise on that day. Everybody's different. If you want to do a heavily resisted dip variation on the same day that you're also benching, I recommend either the ring turned out dip because it's difficult, not a lot of weight, more just technique and stability, or the band resisted dip, which is a great way of adding a lot of tension to the triceps at the top of the movement, but it has very low shoulder stress at the bottom because at the bottom of the band resisted dip, it's essentially just a bodyweight dip, but at the middle through top portions, you can add a lot of tension using that band. So moving on, It's looking like I selected some band resisted dips after the photo press, some tricep pushdowns, chest flies, lateral raises, just general hypertrophy work to get in that volume after the main exercise exposure, which is the bench in this case. Moving on to Saturday, this was kind of a hybrid leg back day. Traditionally, this has just been another back day, but I wanted to reincorporate deadlifting into this routine. So on this day, I'd hit a top single of deadlifts. It's looking like it started off at around 87.5%. And then I also just did some back down volume work just to get that practice, that extra volume exposure. I don't want to bore you too much on the percentages. I do like the percentages in this plan. It was set up in a way where I could very confidently hit singles in weeks 1 through 7. I never really had risk of missing singles. Most of the singles were in that 87.5 to 92.5% range, kind of cycling through them. I thought it was good. I think it's great for building confidence. A lot of people have this all or nothing mentality where they want to put singles into their programs. They don't know what intensity to put them at. Maybe they put them at 95%, just really high. In my opinion, it might not be sustainable. It just depends who you are on an individual basis though. For me, I found it really comforting and confidence building to start off a program hitting singles at 87.5%, work your way up to 92.5, get your volume work in, and just know in the back of your mind that you are accruing meaningful fitness adaptations. By week 8, you should be ready for a PR if you've hit all these workouts, you haven't missed them. You don't have to be hitting bone on bone RPE 11 grinders just to assure progress, really. If anything, that might lead you to become overly fatigued and it might harm you the next time that you go to test your lifts. If you followed along this far in the video, either you're a true fan or you just care a lot about programming and you want to learn how to adjust your own programs, maybe some of the rationale behind how I designed this custom program for myself. And if that is you, you're either a true fan, I appreciate it, and if you want to learn more about programming, definitely drop a comment down below as far as what you'd like to see in the next video. Also, check out my website, can'tstopthesegains.com. Not only is it a catchphrase and a slogan, it's a whole mission statement, it's a lifestyle. But let's carry on. So for the rest of Saturday, it's basically half a leg day, just got deadlifts and back down sets. Then we got light chin-ups, just for the volume, just for the practice, because that is one of my main lifts. I'm a street lifter out here. If you didn't know, that's basically just weighted calisthenics. Then after the pretty mild weighted chin-ups this day, I got in some front lever practice. Doesn't necessarily always have to be the straddle front lever. It's just whatever you feel like that day, however much energy you have left. If it's the straddle, fine. I also started working in the half lays in this training block. So the half lays are a good bridge between the straddle and the full lay. If you don't have that full lay yet, but you got the straddle for, I'd say like 5 or 6 seconds at least, consider trying out the half lay and you might like it. Then after that, just some cable lat pushdowns, cable curls, lateral raises, some general bodybuilding work. So that's the full synopsis of the program that I ran from October 11th to December 3rd. Basically a mixture of a little bit of powerlifting exercises, some calisthenics skill work, some bodybuilding work, just hypertrophy exercises to add some mass to some of the muscles involved in some of these exercises. If you look at it, fundamentally my training routine has been somewhat of a mixture of certain powerlifting exercises, bodybuilding movements, and calisthenics movements, just kind of balanced out in a way where it's not too overwhelming. I'm aiming to get that 1.5 to 2 times a week frequency for the lower body muscle groups, 2 to 3 times a week frequency for the chest and triceps, 2 to 3 times a week frequency for the back and biceps, and sometimes a 4th day of weekly frequency for the lateral delts or biceps, but I feel like 3 is usually about right. Sometimes I would add in a few chest exercises to the Wednesday back day just to get that kind of even bump of volume throughout the whole training week. Sometimes I'd add in a few back exercises to the Monday chest day just to get that back volume up to 3 days a week. Doesn't mean it had to be a devastating back or chest addition, just something as simple as 1 exercise. So you do your full chest workout and then a few sets of straight arm lat pushdowns or a few sets of some back exercise that's not that fatiguing. So something like a lat pull down, some bodyweight chin-ups, and then on the Wednesday back day, something like a bodyweight dip or just some chest flies. I feel like my triceps are relatively one of my best muscle groups, so for me, if I had to add in an isolation exercise, I would choose something that hit mostly the chest. I would prioritize getting in that 3rd day a week frequency on the chest instead of the tricep. I feel like my triceps are pretty well off right now. Chest definitely leaves something to be desired. You can kind of see that there's a massive gap between what the average strength level might be between my bench and my weighted dip. I'm able to weighted dip with my body weight attached to the chain, which is probably getting into the late intermediate advanced category as far as a calisthenics athlete. To put it in perspective, elite calisthenics athletes, they might be hitting close to double body weight attached to the chain on the weighted dip. Not there yet, but my bench is pretty far behind. 180 185 at 140 pounds. Not too good. One might even call it a poverty bench. My bench has always been bad. I think it's because my torso is thin. I'm just not a very big individual. I've always struggled with the bench. But something that I've touched on here in this program design segment, you want to cater your training routine to your own individual goals, of course, and exercise that you enjoy doing, things that are meaningful to you. If you feel like you're just ramming your head into a wall and you're just never getting good at this thing, but all your bros are good at it and you're just like, I just want to be good at it, but it's just not working for you, maybe you can find some other way to make your training meaningful to you. So if you've stopped getting gains at a certain exercise, don't let them stop your gains. Maybe just try a different exercise for a little while, come back to the other thing, just keep it moving. Just find ways to make progress, find ways to keep moving forward. Don't let them stop your gains. All right, so that was the synopsis on what my program was like from October 11th to December 3rd. I'm not going to edit over this copy, of course, so let's switch over to the copy of Ian's program, and I'm going to retitle it here. So here we got Ian's new program, adjusted for no gym. As you can see here, I've already updated the 1 rep max chart to reflect the numbers that I hit in week 8 of the previous program. Here we got a pause bench of 195. I was able to increase the pause bench by 10 pounds. I'm happy with that for a 7-week accumulation, really 6-week accumulation, 1 week taper, test week 8. I think a 10-pound bench increase is pretty solid for me, at least. This far into my training career, I don't expect any like crazy jumps up in strength. I feel like my technique's pretty dialed in. Maybe it's a bit depressing to admit that, but it's also realistic. I don't expect to just have my bench skyrocket. Maybe I need to learn how to leg drive or something better. Who knows? Maybe there are technique things. Maybe I'll visit a powerlifting gym and I'll get some official bench training, and maybe you'll see my bench skyrocket up to some much higher number. Anyways, dips stayed the same. I didn't test them this block, so we're gonna leave that at 280, although I would never try to hit that number out of nowhere. I would definitely try to get some exposure to that movement pattern and then work my way back up to and past that weighted dip number, but it's not something I would rush into because I haven't been practicing it recently. The chin up went from 240 to 255. Definitely happy with that. A big PR, 15 pounds on the belt. Of course, when I did the 100 pounds 8 weeks ago, 9 weeks ago now, I hit it for a double. I definitely couldn't have hit the 110 for a double. Did I really gain fitness? Who knows? I gained about 5 pounds of body weight, probably a little bit of muscle, a little bit of fat. I didn't really get much fatter visually. I used to be at a higher body weight. A series of sicknesses caused me to lose a bit of body weight. It's not like I just gained 5 pounds of fresh muscle. I don't think that's realistic at all over 7-week accumulation. It was some regain of old muscle, maybe a little bit of fat, so I did make some gains over this accumulation period. Yeah, so I basically just hit PRs on the bench and chin up there. Neutral grip chin up, didn't test it. Pull up, didn't test it. Hip thrust, I didn't test it. Deadlift, I didn't test it. By week 8 of this program, I was kind of having some SI joint issues, some re-aggravated previous injuries that were really bothering me, and I didn't want to push it and risk making it a lot worse. I only tested the bench and the chin up, but I hit some PRs, so I'm happy with that. I gained a bit of weight. I feel like I at least subjectively look better than I did at the beginning of the program. It's definitely not all a loss. Just try to focus on the positive things, focus on the facets of your training where you're able to make progress, and just be happy that you're making some progress. And if you're not making any progress, some troubleshooting definitely has to be done, because if you're putting in all this work and you're not making any progress, that just means you're maybe not wasting your time. Hopefully you find it fun or at least enjoy it, but you could be walking away with a little bit more if we troubleshooted it. If you're running into that issue, drop some comments down below. Maybe get a video call with me or something, and we'll try to help you troubleshoot that lack of progress, and I'll give you my best recommendations as to how you might want to shore up some of the areas that could be improved. Alright, so at this point we've gone over the previous program, we've gone over the PRs that I hit in the most recent training block, and now I'm going to talk about how I would adjust this overall skeleton of program in terms of the weekly frequency, the intensities, some of the exercises selected for having no gym access. So what that means is I'm going to look at each exercise and think about what a suitable swap out replacement might be for that exercise. So what that means is an exercise that can be performed with consistent technique, either caters to being loaded in a similar rep scheme, can be progressed through additional load or intensity techniques, and just trains similar muscle groups. It's not going to have to be in the same plane of movement or anything like that. And as far as technique expression, you're not going to really get the same practice that you would if you were practicing the actual exercise, right? So it's not going to be a one-to-one switch. And it also has to be realistic in terms of training by myself and and equipment availability. So for instance, the best one-to-one switch from the pause bench might be weighted push-ups, but I don't really have a training partner who can put that much weight on my back. So what I think is that here for the primary chest exercise, it's going to have to be a dipping variation. I don't currently have a dip bar setup that can accommodate the amount of weight that I would want to add. Essentially, my dip bars, the lever equalizers, they're not high enough off the ground to really be able to hang weights on a dip belt chain and add the amount of weight that I would want to. So until I figure out a good dip bar solution, the plates are just going to hit the floor and it's not really going to be a consistently repeatable option. So for this primary chest movement, it's either going to be the rings turned out dip or it's going to be the band resisted dip at first. Once I have a good solution to be able to do heavy weighted dips, I will definitely put that into that slot because I think it's a more realistic slot in substitution for the bench press because it checks off all those boxes. Can you hit a single? Yes. Can you do it in the 3 to 8 rep range? Can you add weight over time? Yes, yes. Can you have consistent technique? Is it measurable? Yes. Can you get the shoulder below the elbow, right? All those criteria that we're looking for. Can you get consistent reps? It is a very repeatable exercise as long as you have a good setup for it. So if you do have a good setup for it and you don't own a bench, I'd recommend the weighted dip if your shoulders and rib cage and everything agrees with the weighted dip. But if you don't have a good setup for it, consider the rings turned out bodyweight dip, which is to me very challenging in the 5 to 10 rep range. No added weight needed. Or on a set of bars, you can throw that band over the back of your neck and do the band resisted dip instead. So here I'm going to select the rings turned out dip. Might actually do 3 sets of 4. That's going to be pretty challenging there. See how it feels in week 1 and then either keep it the same for a little while or bump it up. And then here we got the band resisted dip. Probably do about 3 sets of 8 to 10 there in that kind of higher rep range. Not a crazy band or anything, just get some extra work in there. Obviously I'm not going to be able to do incline dumbbell bench, so I'm probably going to do a feet up push up here. Instead of the tricep push down, we're going to put in a banded tricep push down. I do actually have a whole cable pulley set up, but if I'm not busting out plates and stuff to do the weighted dips and such, I'm probably not going to pull out a bunch of plates and stuff just to set up the pulley system just to do tricep push downs. Chest flies, I might actually add in the rings turned out push up. So the rings turned out push up is one of my favorite exercises. It's actually one of my most watched YouTube tutorial videos. I'm just going to perform, I guess, 3 sets of 5 here. That sounds like a good starting target. 3 sets of 5, the rings turned out push up. Lateral raises, I do have a few dumbbells, but not really as heavy as I'd like to use for lateral raises. Probably swap them out for the face pull. I'll do the banded face pull here. I know the banded face pull primarily targets the rear delt. I know you guys are probably going to dislike this video or comment down below and be like, Ian, the banded face pull doesn't hit the mid delt, but it does hit the middle delt a little bit. I think it's worth putting in there. How about this? I will experiment, and for this entire multi-week training block, maybe 7 or 8 weeks, I won't do any lateral raises. I'll replace all of my lateral raise exercise slots with banded face pulls and we will see what happens. All right, so there's that day 1. I might add in a few other exercises. Let's just bump everything down a few cells here. So on day 1, I might add in some straight arm skill practice, a band assisted planche variation. For me, that might be the band assisted straddle planche or the band assisted advanced tuck. It just depends how much energy I have left over at the end. And then some type of front lever variation. I'm not expecting to be too fresh at this point in the workout, so it's probably just going to be a half lay or a straddle. So there we've got a little bit of skill work at the end there. Just aim for 3 sets of each of them. There's pros and cons to putting your straight arm skill work this late in the workout. Obviously the main con is that you're going to be a bit fatigued. Some of the local muscles are going to be fatigued from the other exercises that you've done. The main pro is that you're going to be really warmed up, so any risk of being too cold is pretty much out the window. By that point in the workout, you should be very warm. And also, one might argue that it could be a bit safer for the connective tissues in the elbows and shoulders because due to the local muscle fatigue, maybe you just can't hold the positions for as long as you could fresh. So that limiting factor can kind of taper the amount of effort that you put in there. And we talked about just maintaining that kind of 3 times a week back volume. We're going to put in just a few sets of body weight chin-ups here. Upper body calisthenics exercises. This is probably what I would do if I didn't have access to a bench or any gym equipment. This is going to be a pretty thorough upper body workout. Let's move on to Tuesday, the leg day. This is going to be a bit more of a challenge here because it's a leg day. At the gym, I was doing a lot of things. Let's look at this program, see what the best substitutions that we can put in here might be. For the primary exercise, a hip extension based movement. I don't even have a barbell at home, so probably it's going to be either the banded deadlift or the banded good morning. With the banded deadlift, I've given you tutorials in the past. You basically just take a full loop band, you stand on the middle portion, you loop the ends around a sturdy metal pipe or a sturdy wooden stick, something like that, and you basically perform a rack pull type of hip hinge with the band. With the banded good morning, you basically just find a comfortable spot on the back of the neck, more like the upper traps for the band. You squat down to initiate the movement, and then you just perform good mornings with the band. So those are both going to be decent hip hinging variations. Moving down, we got the belt squat. Don't have anything to stand on or a belt squatting platform, so that one is going out the window. Here is probably going to be the reverse lunge or the pistol squat. Since this is kind of more of a volume slot here, it's in that kind of 10 to 20 rep range, I'm probably going to slot in the reverse lunge. You could also do pistol squats if you're in better shape. Just kind of manipulate this slot as you see fit. Just a quad based lower body exercise, really. I think for the leg curl, I've showed you guys in the past the slider hip bridge, a very underrated exercise. I've even taken people who are in really good shape, pretty good lifters otherwise, had them do the slider hip bridge, and this exercise is very hard on the hamstrings. Even if you can lift a lot of weight, this is a tough body weight exercise. So we're gonna slot in the slider hip bridge. I actually bought some sliders so I don't have to ruin my socks now. A lot of them have a fuzzy side and a smooth side. You can put the fuzzy side on your hard floors and the smooth side on your carpeted or rugged floors, so it doesn't matter what kind of floor you have, there should be the dual-sided sliders, so that way you can get it done no matter what flooring you have. All right, and then these other exercises, I don't have a great place to do reverse hypers. I don't want to break my tables in the house, so we're just gonna do bird dogs instead. Dead bugs, maybe, but for the ab stuff, it'll probably just be bird dogs and then the single leg raise to crunch exercise. Moving on to the back day, Wednesday. This was my main back day where I would do the top single on weighted chin-ups and then the back down work. I think for this day, I am actually going to do the weighted chin-ups because I have a pull-up bar and a dip belt. I don't really have any excuse not to. With the weighted dips, you actually do need to be sufficiently high off the ground to add that weight that you want. With the back day, as long as you have a bar, you should be fine. I'm gonna hit that top single, then the volume work just as it is. I liked this set and rep scheme. I liked the intensity scheme, hitting that single at 87.5%, hitting the 3 sets of 6 at 72.5%. Overall, I found it pretty good. I hit a PR in the chin-ups, so I'm gonna just keep that the same. And then after that, some straddle front lever holds, keep that there. Some horizontal body rows, that would require me to set up the rings just to do, so yeah, you know, I will keep the horizontal body row. I think it's a good exercise because it's coming in at a different rep range, right? Most people can't do very many chin-ups. If you're doing chin-ups in the 20 to 30 rep range, full range of motion, I mean, congratulations, but most people can't do that. I think the horizontal body row, it does fulfill a good slot of a higher volume back exercise that you can do at home if you want to. You can add weight if you want to. You can do a lot of things to make it harder. Set the ring height till your upper back is touching the floor and you're literally horizontal. You can elevate your feet. You can put a plate on your belly. You can do stuff like that to make this exercise a lot harder, but at least for the purposes of my plan here, it's going to fill in a higher volume exercise slot. But just keep in mind that it doesn't always have to be that. You can make this exercise very difficult if you want to. It could actually be like a barbell row replacement if you load it heavily enough. Maybe you got to stack a few plates on your belly, but that is going to be a lot easier than trying to put 90 pounds of plates on your own back for a weighted push-up. So logistically, your ability to add weight to a horizontal body row at home is going to be a lot more realistic than performing heavily weighted push-ups by yourself. All right, so we're gonna keep that there. Dumbbell curls. I do have a dumbbell. It's not that heavy. I'll try it out for higher reps. I do have a dumbbell that I can use for higher reps. Maybe I'll throw on some of my change plates onto it to make it a little bit heavier. And if I do end up kind of falling out of range with the weights that I have for the dumbbell curl, I'll probably switch this exercise over to the band resisted curl. We talked about how I am going to put the banded face pull in place of all my lateral raises, so we're just gonna swap that out right there. And since this is just a body weight day and I am not going going to be very time constrained here. Before I do these isolation exercises, I'm gonna put in a little bit of planche practice. We're gonna slot in the band assisted planche variation. This is really whatever variations I feel capable of. If I can go for a band assisted straddle, I'll do it. The way I try to keep myself honest here is really just record with a camera from a pretty head-on camera angle, either front 3/4 angle or from the side. Just make sure that my shoulders are staying depressed and protracted. If that back really flattens out or you start to elevate the shoulders, it's just a sign that you should probably switch to an easier variation, because that technique is not going to carry over as you attempt to progress into the harder variations. You'll find that if you're unable to keep the shoulders depressed and the shoulder blades protracted on the easier variations, as you move on, it's just going to get worse and worse. So be honest with yourself, be realistic, and do the hardest progression that you can do with good technique. All right, so there's that Wednesday back day. We got the top single on chin-ups, the volume work, the front lever, the lighter horizontal body rows. We got the band assisted planche variations. Usually when I'm developing the skeleton of a plan, the primary exercises, like the main compound movements of that day and the main skill movements, are going to pretty much be set as long as you don't have any joint irritation or things that would prevent you from doing it on that day. Those exercises are going to be pretty much set, but you can have a good deal of flexibility with slotting in or out your isolation and assistance exercises. As long as it's fulfilling a similar slot, it doesn't really matter if you substitute it out, because at the end of the day, unless your goals are related to just curling the most weight, it's not that important. For most people, your goals are going to be more tied to, you know, physique or achieving a big number in your compound moves, stuff like that. Not that it has to be, but that's just more common. So don't worry too much about whether you have access to the same exact isolation movements day in, day out. Those things are fine if they change, as long as you're getting in overall a similar weekly workload, similar exposure to volume. That's what you're thinking about there. Moving on to the Friday chest day. This is another benching day, photo press. Of course, I can't really do any of these exercises, so probably gonna have to take those out. We're gonna move up band resisted dips to the primary exercise. I'm going to use a lighter band this day, do this exercise in a different rep range. So if you note on day one, it was in that kind of 8 to 10 rep range, maybe 6 to 10. On Friday here, we're going to perform this exercise in the 8 to 15 rep range. It's gonna be a really light band. To give a bit of variation here, instead of just doing all the same exercises from Monday, I'm going to slot in a handstand push-up here, probably 3 sets of 8 to 12. It's gonna fulfill that rep range there. And then here, we're going to perform the rings turned out push-up. And then here, we got the banded tricep push down. I'm probably just gonna take out the chest flies because we are performing a lot of other exercises. Because I'm gonna just take out the chest flies, we're gonna add an extra set of band resisted dips, and we're gonna add 2 sets of rings turned out push-ups. So that's gonna keep our overall daily chest volume about the same, right? You mentioned we're swapping out all those lateral raises for banded face pulls as part of this wild experiment, so do that. And here, because Saturday is going to be a back day, I am not going to put any back exercise on this Friday chest day. I will, however, place the band assisted planche variation. We're gonna work on that there, and this might be just the entire chest day. All right, so now moving on to Saturday, it's just the day where I do sumo deadlifts and then back if I was in a gym. On Tuesday, I'm probably not gonna use up both the banded deadlift and the banded good morning, so we're gonna take out the banded deadlift from Tuesday, and then we're gonna remove the sumo deadlift. We're gonna do the banded deadlift for maybe 4 sets of 10, something in that range. We're gonna select a decent band tension that's challenging in the 5 to 10 rep range. I don't have a way of doing neutral grip chin-ups. Instead of chin-ups here, I'm just going to do pull-ups, and I will program this as if it's a pull-up, not a chin-up. Luckily for me, I programmed in my pull-ups for this Saturday back day, and 72.5% of my 1RM on pull-ups is actually just my body weight. So 3 sets of 6 at 72.5%. That's just my body weight, no added weight. Very convenient. We're just gonna do the banded deadlift, pull-ups, straddle front lever holds. Can't do cable lat pushdowns. Probably do banded lat pushdowns. This is just a good way of getting extra lat volume. Maybe you're a little bit too tired to do the front lever variations at that point in the training week. It's been a long week. So banded lat pushdowns gives you an exercise to perform in a higher rep range. You can pause with the handle at the knees, handle on the legs, wherever they do touch. You can pause there, use tempo, use control. That's gonna help reinforce the position involved and maybe have a little bit of carryover to your front levers. Of course, you're probably not gonna get a front lever just doing a bunch of banded straight arm pushdowns, but it is a supplemental exercise. Trains basically the same muscle groups with some differences. The most notable difference being the hip position. All right, and then moving on, we've got a curl variation, and we already replaced the lateral raises for banded face pulls. Maybe here we will just put the band resisted curls. So it's looking like on Saturday we don't even have to pull out the gymnastics rings, which is very convenient. It's looking like the Friday and Saturday workouts are a bit short, so maybe on Saturday, just to add in a bit more of a bump of weekly leg volume, we will add in some pistol squats. We're just gonna aim for 4 sets here. So after a bit more deliberation, here's the screen capture of what my ultimate draft is for this new no gym at home calisthenics training plan, incorporating some banded exercises, some weighted body weight exercises. This may not be a final draft, but I changed around a few things just to make it flow a little bit more smoothly to give me the ultimate result that I wanted throughout the training week. So on Monday, starting off with 4 sets of 4 rings turned out dip. It's really a ring dip to ring turnout support at the top, then 3 sets of 5 rings turned out push up, then 3 sets of, I did 12 today, but 3 sets of 8 to 15 on the feet up push up, just 3 sets of body weight chin ups, nothing too crazy, 3 sets of a front lever variation, whether it's full lay, half lay, straddle, pick whichever one feels right that day based on the energy levels, 3 sets of a band assisted planche variation. I'd like to get a planche before I'm too old, so same story as the front lever. I'm just gonna pick whatever planche variation is there for me that day. Then after that, 4 sets of dumbbell curls, some band tricep push downs, some band face pulls. On Tuesday, we got just 3 sets of the band good morning, 6 sets of reverse lunges, and 3 sets of slider hip bridges. Just 3 exercises there. 6 sets for the posterior chain, 6 sets for the quads. Pretty straightforward there. Just a bird dog and an ab exercise after that. 3 sets of each of them. Then on Wednesday, hitting that top single on the weighted chin up, back down volume work. Front lever on rings. I'm doing it on rings on Wednesday just because I feel like it'll stress the joints in a slightly different way, avoid overuse injuries, and then if it appears a third time in the week, I'll probably switch back to the bar. But for this setup, I'm doing front lever on the bar Monday, day 1, front lever on the rings Wednesday, day 2, for the back at least, and then horizontal rows on the rings. Yeah, that's pretty straightforward. I'll have the rings set up, so might as well do a few exercises on them. Rings turned out push-ups, 3 sets of 5 on the Wednesday back day, just throwing in a few sets of chest there just to get that 3x weekly frequency. Once the chest and the bicep tendon are warmed up from that RTO push-up, gonna do a band assisted planche variation. This might be an easier planche variation than the one that appeared on Monday. Should be pretty warm by this point. Of course, I'm gonna continuously monitor joint stress. If the joints are ever too stressed out, I might chop the planching and front lever work down to 2 days a week for each respective movement. Remains to be seen, right? Then we got the dumbbell curls, again, 4 sets. That exercise appears 3 times throughout the week, so 12 sets of curls, really. Then we got the band face pull. Moving on to Friday, we got the band resisted dips, handstand push-ups, rings turned out push-ups, band tricep pushdown, band assisted planche variation again. And you know, as I was saying, if it becomes too stressful on the joints, I will chop off one of those days of planche variation. I do want to get this skill, but I don't want to have unnecessary joint stress either, so I'm just going to feel that out and see how it goes. Then after that, band face pulls. That's the Friday chest day. Note that there's no back exercises on the Friday chest day because Saturday is a dedicated back and bicep day with a few leg exercises to round out that twice weekly leg frequency. So on Saturday here, we got the banded deadlift for 4 sets, pistol squats for 4 sets. Essentially, if you look at the leg volume roundup, we got basically 10 sets of quads, 10 sets of posterior chain work throughout the entire week, 3 sets of 6, just the overhand grip pull-ups to get some variation in there. I know the chin up appears twice. I don't have a neutral grip chin up bar at home, so it's just overhand, underhand. An easier percentage, 72.5%, 3 sets of 6, just getting some volume there. Not even gonna add weight, is just a body weight pull-up. Then we got the straddle front lever hold, an easier front lever variation. In my opinion, it goes advanced tuck, straddle, then half lay, then full lay. So we're gonna go for the straddle, 3 sets for a max hold. And then after that, we got some banded lat pushdowns, some dumbbell curls, and then some band face pulls to round it out. There's the updated draft. I don't know if it's a full final draft. Usually I'll give these programs 1 or 2 weeks, just feel them out, see how the flow is, see how I feel at the end of the workout, and then sometimes I'll make a little bit of adjustment there if needed. If you've made it this far, you're definitely a true fan. Thank you for watching this video. Hopefully you found it useful. Hopefully some of this information will help you adjust your training routines going forward, help you pick some exercises, training similar muscle groups in similar rep ranges with the ability to just kind of consistently repeat exercises. Of course, skill acquisition in each different exercise is going to be separate, so you can't really expect to maintain the skilled aspect of certain exercises as you manipulate these slots and change them around, but at least you'll maintain general fitness characteristics, maybe even get some hypertrophy. Then when you return back to gym training, standard training, whatever your goals end up changing to, you'll have more fitness characteristics maintained than if you had just stopped training. So never stop. Don't let them stop your gains. Keep going. Hopefully you found this information useful. Give it a like, comment, share it if you did find it useful. Let me know what you'd like to see in the next video down in the comment section. I've got another video coming up for you soon, an informational video on how to adjust your calorie targets based on desired rates of loss. So that video is essentially going to talk to you about when an individual comes to you and says, I want to lose X amount of weight in X time frame. How do you calculate that? How do you calculate average rates of loss and some best practices to implement, either calculating your own rates of loss or for clients? I know the new year is coming up. A lot of people are going to be trying to lose weight, and this is something that I get a lot of questions about, so I figured I should make a video. So that's going to be my next informational video coming up very soon after this one. Thank you and have a good day.